Welcome to In the Loop podcast. I am your host, Jordan Jo Hollabaugh, and I love all things breakaway roping. Welcome back to our third annual 15 Days of Breakaway Roping series. In this series, we talk all things breakaway roping for 15 straight days, y'all. We interview the top 15 in the world that are making the national finals rodeo. We start from number 15 and we go all the way to number 1. We talk all things breakaway roping, rodeo strategy, horses, ropes, you name it, we talk about it. And one thing I love about this year is these girls have evolved. It's raw, it's real, it's uncut, and we are just so thankful to be able to do this. I want to give a huge shout out to all of our partners who make this happen, and to every one of you who is listening. Thank you for listening. If these episodes make a difference, please go and share it with your friends. Help us grow. Y'all, we're able to be here because of our listeners, because of our fans and supporters. And again, I just want you to know, thank you so much. I love doing this. I love podcasting, and I can't hold back any longer. So let's roll right into it. 15 Days of Breakaway, third annual. Here we go. Let's talk some breakaway roping. Okay, guys, today we are here with Bradi Good, who is coming in as a rookie to her first ever NFBR, back number 8, with $95,277. Bradi, thanks for coming to the show today.
Thank you for having me.
This got to be pretty exciting to people when you talk about your first ever back number rookie going to the NFR. I know you're not a rookie. You know, we say that you guys are rookies, but you're really, in my mind, I'm like, Brady's always been there. She's always in the thick of things. So what does it feel like to have that first NFBR qualification under your belt?
Oh, it's amazing. I'm super excited to get the chance to go out to Vegas and rope. It's been a dream of mine since they've started out at Breakaway to the pro rodeos. And so I'm just glad that I was able to get it done this year.
And you guys had a crazy year. It was awesome. You know, I was looking over your stats. You ended up with 95,000, but you got a little over 28,000 the last 3 weeks of the rodeo season, which was awesome to finish strong. You were consistent all year long. You had a great group of girls you traveled with. So talk a little bit about your 2023 year and from start to finish, what that felt like.
Oh, it was a great year. Haven Medjid, which is Shelby's husband, actually contacted my dad and had kind of set up our travel group. And it turned out to be such a cool thing. We all three made the finals, and that was our goal at the beginning of the summer. And so we started off strong. It was actually kind of cool because I think we went to around 20 or 30 rodeos where not one of us didn't place. And so we kind of had a running joke that we need to keep that up all summer long, and we're all three going to be at the finals. So that was pretty cool. And, you know, they're just a great group of girls to go with. We had a lot of fun. And it was just really cool at the end to be at Sioux Falls. All three of us made the top 4 in the final round. And that was a super cool feeling when we all three made the finals and the final round at Sioux Falls. And it was just a great summer. We had a blast, and they're a great group of girls.
Well, and I think that that's just such a testament, and it was consistent like that, you know, all year long. There wasn't very many times that we didn't see one or all of you placing at the same places, and it just seemed like iron sharpened iron. And Kendall talked about it, Shelby talked about it, like that was something that fueled each and every one of you. But I think that that's really hard to do because it's hard, first and foremost, because we're women, we're hard-headed, and we got all these emotions and things going on anyway. And then plus we're competing. So talk about how you guys made that work and created that special bond while you were trying to rodeo and go to 94 different rodeos in Canada and the United States and all those things.
Yeah, well, Shelby and Kendall are just positive people in general. And so we wanted that environment to be around us the whole summer. We never really wanted to get negative. And so it was really easy to stay positive when one, if not all of us, were doing good. And so we really piggybacked off of each other and picked each other up when we were down and kind of helped each other out. If I was to do something wrong, Shelby and Kendall might say something to me. Or if Shelby or Kendall did something wrong, I might say something to them. And it was kind of just a really good environment, and it paid off. I mean, we got to the finals, and it's pretty cool feeling.
So, like, are you guys dressing up as the Three Musketeers at the finals? Like, are you color coordinating that?
No, I don't think so. We did at a lot of rodeos this summer. We actually would step out and we'd all be wearing the same color. And we're like, huh.
I know, I saw that. That's why I'm saying, like, are you guys, going to call each other and let each other know what color you're wearing that day? No, I'm
It's
just
probably not
playing.
for the finals.
I'm just kidding, but talk a little bit about your support system. I know your dad
Mhm.
is huge and your mom and all those things. I feel like I've watched you grow up roping. They've got to be ecstatic about this qualification. I know your dad has pushed many calves and he's always very helpful down there. So talk about what that's like having your family as involved in rodeo as you've had
Mhm.
them and behind you and how that's helped you to get where you're at.
Oh, they're awesome. My mom and dad, they would drive our rig this summer. They'd come to all the rodeos. I mean, they stayed home most of the summer, but my dad would be the first one to call me after I got done and see how I did. Send me a run, tell me how you did, tell me what you did wrong, tell me what you did right. And, he's my coach. He's taught me everything I know, and I wouldn't be where I am today without him. And same thing goes to my mom. It takes a village, and she's probably the backbone of it, having to put up with my dad and me sometimes. But uh, yeah, but no, they're great, and my whole family. We've always been involved with rodeo, my brother and I, and it's just a great environment to grow up with. And my parents have done a great job, and I'm very thankful for them.
What are some of the biggest takeaways that growing up in rodeo that you think have really been lifelong cornerstones for you as you've grown up and continue to grow up and do the sport of rodeo?
I think learning to lose was the biggest challenge that I had to overcome. When I was little, I used to get pretty upset about not doing my job right and not winning. And so I've had to learn how to do that. I've had to actually a mental coach, and so he's helped me a lot the last couple years learning how to lose. And I think once you learn how to lose, you learn how to win because you're not in your head. You're not worried about that last run. You get to go to the next one the next day. And so I think that's what helped me the most this year was learning to lose. And so that was something that I had to learn growing up, and it's really helped me out in the professional world.
And I think the more we do this, I'm very interested and love the topic of sports psychology. It seems like it's coming into the equation
Mm-hmm.
more and more. We're trying to sharpen every iron that we can to show up and be the
Mm-hmm.
best that we can. So talk about your journey in sports psychology. I think it used to be something like, oh my gosh, that person has to have a mental coach, but now it's like you don't have a sports psychologist. Like, oh, so I love that the conversation has changed there, and we're starting to see that because we're trying to do the best we can to show up and be our best mentally, physically, and
Mm-hmm.
emotionally. So talk about this sports psychology journey for you and what your takeaways are from that.
Yeah, rodeo is such a mental sport. I mean, you're in your head, you're doing it on your own most of the time, and you're in the truck driving pretty much 90% of the summer, and then you're roping 10%. So you have all that time to think about your run, think about what you did, and think about what you're going to do on the next one. And so that was always my biggest issue is I would get in my head about my last run. And so going to my mental coach, his name's Brian Basham, and he helped me a lot. He helped me get out of my head and just focus on my run like I do at home. And so that was one of my main goals this summer was to make my runs like my practice runs, like I do at home. And I feel like once I did that, it just felt easier. Everything felt smoother, and I was out of my head, and it paid off.
Yeah, and I think that is you nailed on the head. It did pay off because you have a very consistent pattern. All three of you girls, I felt like you had the same consistent pattern. It was like boom, 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 all three of you, and I think that that's really cool. And that's probably the hardest thing to do in all the different situations because the scores, the cattle, all the things are
Mm-hmm.
different every day, and so creating that consistent pattern, it stands out every day. You're just doing your job. You're making your run every single day.
Yeah, for sure. 100%.
So talk a little bit about your horsepower. Man, I love that horse. My husband and helped Timber Moore find that horse in the first place. And then we kind of got to watch him. We're partial to him. You guys got him from Timber. Tyler Milligan's rode that horse at the finals. So he's no rookie to the finals. He'll be excited to be there again. Talk talk about Rango. He's 14. I mean, I think that's maybe one of the fastest horses that there is out there right now. He's just amazing. I love his style. So talk about him and how he's helped you through all the different setups this year.
Yeah, thank you. He is truly like a blessing. He came into my life when one of my good horse actually broke his leg, and I was in between horses, couldn't find one I liked, and it's kind of a God deal. He placed him in my life, and me and him fit so well because I feel like we kind of go together. His run is basically my run because I feel like I'm more of a average roper. I'm not really a gunslinger, and he isn't either. You know, he's fast, like you said, and long score is where he excels. So like places like Cheyenne and Salinas and stuff, that's where he's going to be the best at. And so I feel like for me and him to click, he's been truly unbelievable, and he doesn't take my throw away at all anytime. And so it really is easy on my part. I just have to do my job because he does his every single time.
And to have that confidence when you're back in the box, that's just irreplaceable.
Yeah.
You know, it gives you a clear head, and you know that you're showing up and half the battle's already been won. And so when you can do that, it's pretty sweet. But I know that you're not a rookie to rodeo. You rodeoed last year. You were in the top 20. You battled back this year, got your first back number. So, and I just can't quit saying that. That's so cool. Congratulations again.
Thank you.
But talk about the rodeos. You know, I know that this is your second year rodeoing. You did it a little bit different this year. You went to 94 rodeos. So what was behind that strategy? I know you guys went to Canada some, you went to the United States a bunch. What went into that strategy and how you went about rodeoing this summer?
Well, this past summer, we didn't have rodeo count like we do this next year. And so our game plan was to go to as many as we can, put our names down, even if we can't make it. Haven Mejid, he actually helped us a lot. He pretty much scheduled our whole summer out for us, made it pretty easy because he knows his rodeo game pretty well. And so he knows which rodeos and performances we should get at, which slacks are better. And so we really followed that, and we tried to go to as many as we could. I got to go to Canada for the first time and rodeo up there for a little while. Shelby was grateful enough to let me on her horse, Root Beer. And so that was really cool to get to go up there and experience the Canadian rodeos because I've never been to Canada. And so other than that, I mean, we just tried to get to as many as we could. And I think I ended up being like 94 rodeos, and Kendall and Shelby were a little over 100 because they went to a little more Canadian rodeos than I did. But we did travel a lot, and we drove all night to some rodeos that we probably shouldn't have drove to, but it was worth it.
So talk about what you love and what you don't love so much about the rodeo road.
I would probably say the driving all night. That's pretty hard to do. And in my experience this summer, Kendall likes to drive in the mornings, so we let her drive in the mornings. And then Shelby kind of likes to drive during the day, so she drives during the day. And then I would drive at night. I'd get the all-nighter because I'm kind of a night owl. You got the night shift. I got the night shift, so I tried to sleep during the day and then drive in the night. But it kind of worked out because I like to stay up at night. Kendall doesn't like to stay up at night. She likes to drive in the morning. Shelby, she would drive at night sometimes too, but we made it work. And, you know, it was kind of tough sometimes. We'd have to drive straight through to another rodeo and not get any sleep. So I'd say that's probably the hardest part about being gone all summer. But other than that, it's pretty fun.
As many of you know, infrared light therapy, otherwise known as laser therapy, has completely changed my personal performance as well as my horse's performance. I use Revitavet, developed by science and backed by the top trainers and world-class riders. Revitavet is simply the best. It is the leader of equine preventative maintenance and rehab device. It provides healthy maintenance and rehab of your equine athletes, of yourself, you name it, it does it. I use it on a daily basis. I have seen the results, y'all. I had a shoulder injury that I battled through. Laser therapy brought me through it. I've had several injuries with my horses. Laser therapy has brought them through it. I am a firm believer in this product and in laser therapy. Y'all go check it out for yourselves. Revitavet.com. You can use my code JordanJoe to save 10%. My 3 favorite devices are the Hawk Saver set, the Tendon Saver set, as well as a pole cap. Y'all go check it out. Laser therapy has changed my life, and it can change yours too. Now let's get back to some breakaway roping. So talk a little bit about, we've talked about the turmoil that it takes on us physically and mentally, emotionally. What about your horses? I mean, what do you guys do to help keep your horses in their tip-top shape, best prepared? I mean, I think that one thing we've all learned, it's not the rodeos that are hard on your horses, it's the road, it's the highways, it's all the dips and divots and bumps and all the things that come with rattling in a trailer for 12 straight
Yeah.
hours at one time. So what do you guys do, and what did you do this summer to kind of keep your horses in their best performing?
We tried to, when we were doing long hauls, we'd try to get them out at a certain point, probably like a halfway point in between each rodeo, walk them around, water them. And then Shelby actually has a beamer that we use on all of our horses a lot. And I feel like that was really helpful this summer. I keep Rango on MVP. I use Gastroplex and Exceed 6-way. And I feel like that just keeps him sound and happy when he's traveling and going from rodeo to rodeo. It keeps his gut healthy. And so I feel like we tried our hardest to, when we got to rodeos, we tried to build them the biggest spins that we could with not being rude to other people. But then we'd also try to find places where we could turn them out, let them be horses, and kind of forget about the rodeo scene.
Yeah. Well, and I think that that's probably the biggest thing. I think when they all get home, they're like, "Oh gosh, thank goodness, we're not going to
Yeah.
be in a trailer for a minute." So,
Mm-hmm.
I think it's really crucial, but it's a lot, and I think that that's something people don't realize. But most of the time, and that's why I wanted to highlight that is, we see a lot of people taking care of their equine athletes first and foremost before they do themselves, and they probably get better care than we do. And so I think that
Yes.
that's really really cool, and you have to have it because if they're not at their best, you can't be at your best. Talk about your favorite setups. I know you're going to say the longer setups, but if you had to pick a couple of your favorite rodeos this year, what would they be?
Yeah, I am partial to the longer setups, but Cheyenne has always been one of my favorite rodeos. I've grown up going there, watching my dad, and it was so cool to back in the box for the first time and be able to rope there. So I'd say that's probably one of my top rodeos. I've made the short run there every year that I've went. I've yet to win it, but it's pretty cool to make the short run there because there's really no other rodeo like the Daddy. And other than that, Sioux Falls was an incredible rodeo this year. It was the first time that they've had it, and to be able to rope for that kind of money each night, and then have it tournament style where you battle out to see who gets the 25,000 at the end. That was super cool, and it was like well put together production. I mean, it was just an amazing rodeo. It felt like a mini NFR. So that those are probably my two favorite rodeos.
Well, and I want to talk both about those, but let's touch on Cheyenne. And one of the things I think people probably don't know about you is you're also a Betty. You are a barrel racer. And you have made it back to Cheyenne several times in the barrels and the breakaway, all around opportunities there. And so I think one day soon we'll probably see a women's all around champion at Cheyenne. But talk about what it's like being an active competitor in the barrel race and in the breakaway. I think that's something that there's a ton of ladies out there that do both, but they don't get highlighted enough. And man, I love the barrel race, but all of you guys know I'm so scared to go fast. Like, that's why I'm a spectator because I don't like to go fast. So, but I love it. It's an amazing sport. So, talk a little bit about
Mhm.
the crossover between the barrels and the breakaway and being able to do both of those events at such a high level.
Yeah, I've always loved running barrels. I had success at it in high school and then up through my college years. And I kind of decided to enter Cheyenne just because it's Cheyenne and I wanted to enter the barrels. And I did do good 2 years ago, made it all the way to the semifinals. And it was super cool that I got to rope and run barrels in the semifinals. But I think that barrel racing, the way that you have to ride your horse and you learn their movements, you learn where your hands go, you learn where your feet go, you learn how to hold them up. I feel like that really helps with breakaway roping because you learn how to ride your horse better and you learn their movements and you learn how to pick them up and you learn the same things that you would in barrel racing connects with the same things that you do in the breakaway. And so I feel like that's given me an advantage because I've rode a lot of barrel horses. And so getting on a breakaway horse, it's kind of like a day off. They're a lot chiller than barrel horses, but they're a horse. They do the same things, and so it's really helped me to be able to cross event.
I love that too. And man, barrel racers are jockeys through and through. And there's no way I'd be able to stay on. Like you definitely have to strap me in because I'm coming out of there. But I just admire that so much and the horsemanship and the time and the due diligence that goes into it. It's amazing to watch. And I know there's several ladies who do both. And I just want to say kudos to all of you guys who are able to do both at such a high level. That's pretty dang sweet. But let's roll in and talk about Sioux Falls. I mean, you walk away from Puyallup to Sioux Falls with like, oh, I don't know, 28,000, no big deal. Um, Man, like, did you get on a roll? I mean, is it just the momentum kept carrying through? Was it your traveling partners? Like, what was going through your head the last month of the 2023 rodeo season?
Well, Puyallup was a blast. That is another rodeo that I enjoyed a lot this summer. It was really cool to get to rope at the Washington State Fair, and you actually have to like walk your horses through the carnival all the way up
Through
to
a
the arena,
million
and so that was
people. Through a
yeah,
million
that
people.
was an
Yeah.
experience. But no, it was super cool to get to rope there, and I did good there, and that's what got me into Sioux Falls. And I'm not going to say I had the best luck at Sioux Falls because I had probably the best luck of everybody because I broke two barriers and I was able to fish my rope on in the 8-man round. And then finally in the 4-man round, I got it together and I made a clean run. But thankfully, it worked out. But yeah, that was such a cool rodeo. And definitely next year, we're going to make it a priority to go to the tour rodeos and make sure that we're at Puyallup in Sioux Falls because that is such those two are amazing rodeos and they pay out so much. And so it's almost like you have to be there.
I think that that's something that we really saw was a game changer. You know, Puyallup last year was a game changer, but we didn't have the Governor's Cup, the Sioux Falls, like we did this year, and the payout was astronomical. And especially at that point in the season, you know, it made or break several different people that made the finals in several different events. I don't know that
Mm-hmm.
really anything in the breakaway was changed, but really cool just to see it all kind of come together. And I think 100%, like if you don't have that on your map, you're going to be missing out because it's a
Yeah.
huge opportunity there. And like you said, you know, I think one thing that's really neat is we see a lot of great runs, right? We see a lot of all these perfection runs and you're perfect and all this stuff. Well, that's really not true life all the time. Like FYI for everybody, you know, I know we portray that, but it's really not. So I think it's so
Yeah.
cool that, you know, you're like, hey, I didn't have the best. I did have luck, but I didn't rope the best until the end. And then
Yeah.
you redeemed yourself that last round. You roped the heck out of him. Um, but I think that that's a testament to the sport of breakaway and just being human and like, you know,
Yeah.
like you said, learning to lose and then you end up winning. So talk about some of those things that you worked through this year. Just it not being so perfect all the time, but still being able to win even when it's not.
My biggest deal, especially with my horse Rango, is scoring because with him, I can be off the barrier and still catch up. And so in the past, I've always wanted to be in the barrier, trying to be perfect and on top of the calf where I can be fast. Well, I've had to learn that that's not at all what I have to do. I just need to be safe behind the barrier, and my horse is going to get me there. And I just have to make my own run on the calf that I drew. And so that was my biggest goals this summer was just to do that, make my run. And I feel like once I learned that, it just kind of came easier, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, 100% sense. And I think too that that takes away so many things that we battle normally, okay, because you're not competing against anybody else or anything else. It's you and your horse
Mm-hmm.
and the calf. That's what you're competing against.
Yes.
Yeah, I love that. That's really good advice. Anybody who didn't take note, rewind, go back, listen to that again. Okay, so let's roll into the NFR this year. How does it look like for you as far as preparation goes? Are you setting up arenas? Are you running calves? Are you going to jackpots? Are you picking out your back number ceremony dress? Like, what you got going on this year?
I'm doing all of those things. Just came off from the WPRA finals. We actually broke in the NFBR calves yesterday, and so I took my good horse and then I took my young horse over there. And then every day I'm going to try to rope. Haven and Shelby are actually probably going to set up their arena to be just like South Point. So I'm going to probably go over there and take my good horse and kind of get him in there and get the feel for it. But other than that, I'm just going to rope and get prepared and see where it goes.
Make your run. I love it.
Make my run.
Talk about the ropes that you use. Everybody is a little bit different, and that's one thing I really like to highlight on this series. Everybody does it different, and they all show up and kick butt. So, tell me what what ropes you use, what your strategy is, how you break them in, and get them ready to go to the NFR.
I use Rattlers, Vipers, 9.5s. And what's different about me actually is I have to cut my ropes really, really short, because in my run, when I throw my rope, my horse doesn't stop as I'm throwing my rope. He kind of takes another jump and then he gets in a stop. So that way it doesn't take away my throw, which is a good thing, but also it takes a little bit of time to stop. So that's why I like to cut my ropes a little bit shorter than most people do. But once I get them out of the box, I'll cut them to the length that I like, and then I'll stretch them once, put some baby powder on them, put them in my bag, and go to the next one.
Headed to the rodeo. So what you're saying is, like, if you're late and you ride a tight horse, don't ask you to use one of your ropes. Basically.
Yes, do not ask me to use my rope. I don't think you're gonna catch up with it because it's pretty short.
So do you measure it like according, like with a tape measure? Do you just kind of get on, tie on? I mean, how do you do the process?
I started with what I've always used, like last year, and that's just kind of like a normal length I feel like anybody uses. And then as time went on, I would cut it a little shorter each and every time. So I'm like, oh, it wasn't quick enough. Oh, I need to get a little bit more off. And so now it's kind of just I have my coil and I have my rope, and that's pretty much it. Shelby always teases me. She's like, "How do you rope with this? This is so short." I'm like, "But it's not when I'm riding my horse, because my horse takes another jump and it gets it there."
Yeah, I love that. And that's so true. And that's just another thing we talked about, and we've talked about this whole series, is knowing your equipment, knowing your horses. Everybody's looks different, and you've got to do it a little different, you know. And so if anybody ever wants to jump ride Rango, bring a short rope. Just saying.
Bring a short rope, yes.
So let's talk a little bit about Pro Fantasy Rodeo. I was asking you a little bit earlier. I'm like, hey, what do you know about that? You're like, oh, all the things. So let's talk a little bit about that. Have you played Pro Fantasy? You know, there's several different games going out to Vegas this year. Pretty exciting. Breakaway is one of them. Let's talk a little bit about strategy and horses. If you were going to pick a team based off of horsepower, how would you go about doing that?
I feel like I would go off of the average, because we are going for 10 rounds, and I feel like horsepower is very important for the 10 rounds that we're going to compete in. And so for me, I might be a little biased because she was my traveling partner, but Shelby, she rides Horse of the Year, Anna. That horse is unbelievable. I mean, every single time that horse does the exact same thing, and it's awesome to watch. It's such a cool horse, and Shelby rides her and ropes so good on her. And so that would probably be one of mine. Another horse that I love is Joey Williams' Baby. I've always loved that horse. She's done good at the finals. She's done good at Pendleton. She's done good at Cheyenne. I mean, she had an amazing year, and that horse is just unbelievable. And so she also ropes incredibly on her. So I think that those two are going to be ones to watch out there. And then, you know, for the third one, I like to say, probably have to say my horse Rango. I may be biased, but I feel like he's not going to take my throwaway, and it's just going to be on me to do my job. And so for average, I think that he's going to be an average horse, and I feel like those three would be my picks.
I love those too. And too, I mean, isn't it so cool that we're starting to tell these stories about all these equine athletes that we get to ride? Like, they're probably becoming more famous than you ladies are that have made the NFR this year. And
Yes.
that's pretty cool that your horse also there, you know, you can talk about a person, but then you can also talk about a horse and still know who the rider is, or vice versa. And I think that just is a pretty cool testament as a rodeo athlete, I would think.
Yes, I agree. Horses they're everything to us.
They are. They make or break a person. And I think that we see that a lot, you know. So we're very thankful for all of our equine athletes. But Brady, it's been really fun to talk to you. I have one more question for you, which I don't really know that you can answer because you're so young. I mean, you don't even have wrinkles yet. But if your future self, if your future Brady was going to tell you something today, what do you think she would tell you?
Oh gosh, that is a really good question. I would probably say that I'd tell myself to take it all in because I'm not going to be rodeoing for forever. I eventually, I want to settle down, have a family, and raise them. And so I'm not going to be on the road breakaway for forever. So I feel like she would tell me to take it all in, enjoy it while you can, live in the moment, and make the best out of it.
Well, I love that. And I think that's great advice. And I hope in a few years when, well, maybe, like 10 or so, when you're a mom and you can talk about these things, we can have you on the podcast again and we can talk about new things then. But first and foremost, congratulations about your first NFBR qualification. I can't wait to see you in Vegas and we will talk to you soon.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me.